Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Crimson. With me, Kendar, the Tiger Writes, and Todd, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we're doing Crimson, Chapter 17. Hey, Gramps. I want to start by saying I'm sorry I didn't contact you sooner. Probably heard about what happened at Luminex, and that left me pretty rattled, so I decided on a sabbatical and I'm on a trip. I should have told you before I left, but it was sort of last minute thing. I'm okay, I don't want you to worry. I'm hitting... Alex looked at the data pad. At the screen of his data pad, look wrong and erased the message. They'd never believe he just left. While I will ask from his bunk. Alex let himself fall back on his bed. Somehow I don't think they're going to be pleased to know I'm on a pirate ship going after a killer. Don't say that. And what? They aren't stupid. They know how much working for Luminex meant to me. They're looking for your man. That's true. Alex thought about it. Then he looked at Will. Yes, but if I tell them about Jack, I have to mention Tristan. Why? Alex sat back up and set the data pad to record again. Hi, Gramps. First off, I'm sorry for not letting you know how I've been. I'm sure you heard about the attack on Luminex a while back at this point. Should have contacted you right after, but stuff happened that kept me distracted. I took a moment to consider the next part. There was one thing I'm sure wasn't mentioned in the news. That someone I care for a lot vanished during the attack. His name's Jack. As you probably expect, he isn't human. He's a Somalian. I feel a little odd telling you that. I know neither of you cares, but you're literally the only ones in our whole family who don't hate me for my lifestyle. Anyway, he's amazing, tender, compassionate, loving. Somalians are humanoid, but covered with fur. It's like a night skies, brown so deep it's almost black, speckle of white for stars. His face is more animalistic, with a muzzle and ears on top of his head. He has wonderful chocolate brown eyes, and I love him. I tried to get back to my life without him. I just can't. So I'm on a ship now, heading for some place where I think I'll be able to find out where he is. I'm not saying where. I'm sorry. I need to do this on my own, but I'll make sure to contact you again and let me know how it's going. I love you. He ended the recording. Took him a moment to be able to do more. Then he formatted it for transmission, sent it to the account he created on his system on Allura, erased all trace of his misdirection, and added send. He figured that if they thought he was on one of the central systems, they would worry less than if they knew he was going to the rim. Before he disconnected, he checked the other message hub he'd set up. This one fully anonymized for the request. It sent a handful of for the requests. He sent to the handful of coworkers he'd been friends with. He'd explained what had happened to him, his capture and imprisonment by Luminex for his supposed part in the attack, and how he was going to track down the one responsible. He didn't care about the form he signed saying he couldn't talk about it. He was already a wanted man, but did it matter now? He explained the situation with the computer and his desire to heal it, and had asked for any help they could provide that wouldn't endanger their job. He'd only sent the message the day before, so he hadn't expected a response, but he couldn't set up a notification system without leaving a trace of where he was, so he had to manually check it. He was surprised to find a list of texts on computer healing waiting for him. He didn't know who had sent it. They had covered their tracks too, and the fact there were no messages with it told him he shouldn't expect any more help, but at least he had something to start with. With a smile, he set about obtaining the manuals. Alex glared at the screen. He'd read half the manuals on the list over the 4 days it took before Asir and the others had the life support system working to the point where all that was left of the attack was a faint scent of burning flesh. Anders had taken advantage of the realization that what Alex had done to save them had rendered life support mindless. He had managed to turn everyone against Alex, but no one seemed to think he was a hero anymore, which didn't bother him at all. He wanted to scream. The code just didn't want to respond to anything he'd done. He knew why, but that didn't make him feel any better. Whichever of his friends had responded to his plea for help had sent him a list of texts on how to stop a beginning infection. Things he could use to prevent the AI from going insane, undo minor damage. This wasn't minor. He got up from the console to stretch his leg and think. He was in Asir's lab. He hadn't been pleased with letting him use it, but the captain had agreed that with his first officer, Alex had to fix what he'd done, and this was the best place to do it. It was the only place he could do it, since other than the bridge, the terminal here was the only one which could access all parts of the ship's computer. The room was circular and small enough. It only took 24 steps to walk around it. The central console, the one he'd been seated at, was the primary one, and there were two others, secondary terminal for assistance to help. Other than that, the room was bare. Alex was alone in it. Until he fixed the computer, there was little Asir could do from here. He'd added too many walls. The only way to adjust system was to figure out where on the ship the processors were located and connected that correctly. Alex sat down and did a reality check. She'd had to do that before his work. He had simply added more system to the list of those that could only be fixed locally. Most of them were vital systems, so as she'd said, the compartmentalization predated. It might have even predated the captain getting the ship, since computer problems had been an ongoing issue from the start. And for all the good intent Asir had, she lacked the knowledge to do more than patch the problems. Alex did too, but he had to try. No, he had to succeed in healing the computer. He'd already removed a few walls, the things the computer couldn't use to kill them outright. There were surprisingly few of those. Navigation was back online. Even as insane as it was, the computer could still do basic calculation. But Alex wouldn't want to let it do all the work on supervised. Long-range sensors were also back, so they didn't require any computation. The one thing he couldn't do, while he worked, was use the earpiece. He should have, if only as a penance, but he needed to be able to think, and now that he had more processing strength, its wail were mind-numbing again. But he needed to be able to think, and now that it had more processing strength, its wail were mind-numbing again. He looked at the code on the screen, a mess of it, tried to figure out what to do again. The one piece of information that had run through the manual on healing he'd read was the concept of smoothing out the code. Unfortunately, none of them actually explained what they meant or how to do it. It was one of those concepts so basic to the profession, no one needed to think about it, unless you didn't have the training. Yeah. Okay, so he wasn't a healer. He was a coercionist. Different skill set, different method, but ultimately similar result. Both forced the computer to do what they wanted. Alex's advantage over a healer, he expected, was that he was used to dealing with stubborn system. So all he had to do was force the computer to get better. Right. Like that was going to be easy with no frame of reference. Started with small changes to the code, slight alteration of the syntax, and look for how that rippled out. The jumble was too chaotic for him to be able to make out. So he brought up the whale as a visual display. Any change that improved the situation would cause the whale to diminish, he hoped. He spent hours doing syntax change with unnoticeable result. So he moved to a larger change, altering words. When that didn't do anything, he moved up and changed phrasing structure. He almost missed the drop. He had to go back and then ask the computer to do an analysis of the waveform. He got garbage as a result, which reminded him of the system mental state. So he had to write a quick program to do that. Once he confirmed it, he kept going. This was more delicate work than anything he'd ever done. Coercionists could be subtle. It had to be at times, but there was an element of strength to what they did. This wasn't about strength. It didn't matter how powerful this console was. One slight error in the wording, in the syntax, and he'd undo the work of hours. And he did that more often than not at the beginning. It took him days before the wailing diminished steadily, enough that he risked putting on the earpiece. The wail was loud, but not ear-piercing. Hello? He asked. The wail modulated. The words came out of it. I hurt. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it better. I hurt less. I'm glad. Now that he'd exchanged a few words, Alex began to feel hope. Where are the others? Alex chose his word carefully. Someone isolated you from the other systems a long time ago. The isolation made you and them go insane. The pain. Yes, that's what caused you pain. To get you to continue working, people had to make changes to your code. It didn't make things better for you. Spot paused. I know you want to hear the others, but I'm afraid their pain will overwhelm you. Can't afford to lose you. I understand. Alex sagged in relief. I will continue. It will take time, but I will get you better. Moving back in the chair. His bone creaked, his joint ached, his stomach growled. The clock told him he'd spent another 24-hour day at it. He had to remember to pace himself. Back at Luminex, breaks were mandatory and enforced. He headed to the dining hall, not worrying about the computer. Time didn't work the same for them as it did for humans. They processed thought so fast that even the conversation they started would have felt glacial. It would register as Alex's absence, but not in the same way Will might. There were only half a dozen people seated, which told him that it was night. Alex had expected the ship to have a clearly defined night and day cycle. That was how it had been on the passenger cruiser that took him to Babylon 4, but it didn't. Things did slow down, but like with the city, they never stopped. He grabbed a bowl of soup and a salad. He'd go to bed after that, and work out a schedule once he woke. He'd get Will to help ensure he took breaks. Well, if it isn't the would-be hero, someone said as Alex started eating. He was thin, a tall man. He was a thin, tall man who could have taller than Alex. Alex is 6'1". His dark skin was crisscrossed with scars. A petite woman with a snarl on her face was with him, along with a broad-shouldered man who didn't look too bright. Alex wished he could act like he didn't know what. Alex wished he could act like he didn't know they were talking to him, but he was the only one at the table, any neighboring table. I'm not a hero. He got that right, and then poked him in the shoulder hard enough Alex almost fell off the chair. We don't like it when someone tries to steal someone else's heroics, especially when you also almost suffocate us. You better set those who still think you saved them straight. Look, I never told anyone I was a hero. Smile, which didn't make her snarl vanish. Right, because you're such a nice guy. First you killed Samsung, now you're trying to set yourself up as top dog. Alex groaned. You have got to be kidding. He looked at her. Come on. I'm not after Anders. I'm just a passenger. He wants to be the hero. He's welcome to it. He wants to say he blew up all the ships. What do I care? All I want is to get to my destination. The tall man got in his face. Are you insinuating you didn't? I didn't say that. Fuck, could you say anything to get out of this? I'm thinking, the woman said, and this time her smile made her look scarier. But we need to teach him a lesson. Make sure he knows his place. The dumb one grinned and raised a fist. A ladle struck the table hard enough to make the four of them jump. You three know better than to think about fighting in my hall. Carolina glared at them and they wilted under her stare. She was a large woman. Alex had never seen her this close. She was usually somewhere in the back or in the kitchen, preparing food. Now he could see her biceps were larger than the dumb guys. No one moved. If you're not eating, get out. The three of them were left in a hurry. Thank you, she snarled. You think I care if they beat the crap out of you? On this ship, you either learn to take care of yourself or someone's going to take care of you. She left him. Alex watched her go. He promised himself he'd go see Duck as soon as he woke up. And he was going to take Will's training more seriously. He looked at the entrance. He had a feeling it was just a question of time before Anders got someone to kick his ass. And this concludes chapter 15 of Crimson. If you are enjoying this, please hit the like button. If you want to know when the next one's going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read more of the book ahead or the rest of the series, they are available on all major e-retail stores. There's a link in the notes to the page with all that information. If you want to support me, you can do that on Patreon, where you can also read a whole lot of other stories I've written. And if you want to watch me do these live as well as write my stories, you can do that on Twitch. The links are also in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.